Hello and welcome to the Spandex and Wine podcast. I'm your host, Robin Hackney, and I'm so happy that you're here. This podcast is a place for conversations about balancing a healthy lifestyle and being happy. More specifically, happy hour. Together, we'll explore all things wellness and wine. I hope you learn a little, laugh a lot, and along the way, know you're not alone on this balanced wellness journey. Ready to jump in? Pour something in your glass that makes you happy because it's time for Spandex and Wine. Hello and welcome to the Spandex and Wine podcast. I'm your host, Robin Hackney, and I'm thankful that you're here. When people ask me about the podcast and how I'm enjoying it, my response is always, I love it. And I followed up with, there are so many amazing people out there. Everyone has a story, yes, even you listening, and we can all learn from each other. And I think that's what I love the most. The connections, the ability to help someone sharing their information and learning new things and how to apply them in my life. Today's guest is a true inspiration on so many levels. I'm grateful I had the time with Cindy McGuire, and I hope you will share this episode with a friend. Listen as she tells her story of resilience and determination. Well, hello and welcome to the Spandex and Wine podcast, Cindy. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, and I have to say thank you to our mutual friend, Emily, for connecting us. I got to spend some time with her yesterday. The podcast is doing a summer tour, and she came to the winery that was on the first stop.
Nice.
Yeah, she's just delightful. I love Emily. So
yeah, she's a bestie for sure.
Yeah, you guys go way back.
We do, even farther than we realized. Our grandfathers were good friends growing up, and I actually spent time with her cousins as a kid, but she and I didn't meet until she was looking for a room to rent in Des Moines when she moved up here, and I was looking for a roommate. And it wasn't until I think the third day or something. And we were like, wait a minute, I think we're connected somehow. So we're basically family.
That's awesome. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Well, she's a good one. And she was, sharing with me a few friends that she thought would be perfect for the podcast. And she mentioned your name. And when I saw everything that you've done, I'm like, oh my goodness, this one could be a long one, but we'll do our best to condense. I mean, you're just so fascinating, everything that you've done. So let's start with right after college. How about that?
Right after college, I couldn't get away from Ohio where I grew up fast enough. So I hopped on a yacht and I worked on a private yacht for 2 years in the Mediterranean and the Caribbean.
Oh my gosh.
And we're not talking below deck yacht. So every time someone is like, oh my goodness, was it like Below Deck, the show? Apparently I haven't seen it.
I don't know.
Ever go see it. Anyways, there is a charter yacht industry show that is called Below Deck, and everyone who watches it, which I don't do reality shows, but they're like, was it like Below Deck? And from what I've heard about Below Deck, that is the charter yacht industry. I was in the private yacht industry. It was very quiet, very peaceful.
Nice.
Yeah.
So then what did you do on the yacht?
I started out as a crew member and I was interior staff. And then we lost our chef when we were in Barcelona. So I cooked for the crew for a month. We had 18. And so I got to utilize the fresh markets in Barcelona and learn how to explore food. And then when we hired a new chef, then I went outside and I kind of begged the captain to let me go outside because I'm much happier outside than inside. And so so that was the first 8 months. And then the remainder of the 2 years, I became a deckhand. I got to learn how to just be a decky and work hard and get strong and learn about navigation and driving boats and, getting picked on by all the boys, which at, 20, 21 years old was annoying. They were like brothers, but they're family. So, and still to this day, quite a few of us still stay in contact. So it was a really, really amazing experience because without that, there's so many things in my life that I probably wouldn't have had access to today if I hadn't experienced what luxury could look like. I grew up in a tiny town in Ohio. And so it kind of opened my eyes to what possibilities there are. And now with that, I'm trying to create experiences for people around me with the knowledge that I had from that and still expanding upon it.
That is so cool. Oh my gosh, I bet it was an amazing experience. So what's your degree in then?
I actually have an associate's degree in massage therapy. So
Hmm.
my profession is I'm a sports massage therapist, and I work with athletes. And as I'm aging and dealing with injuries, I used to be an athlete, and as I've started aging, my demographic of a lot of the people that I work with is an aging demographic as well. So it's lots of orthopedic injuries, surgical repairs, replacements, working in conjunction with physical therapists and physicians to make sure that we're providing the best care for clients as they're moving forward with their injury repair. So, and helping people with their
Yeah.
goals. I have a lot of high school athletes. We just finished up this last weekend with state track. And so today I was loaded down with all my state track athletes that are just exhausted.
Yeah, I bet. I bet. But you've done some amazing things with your sports massage as well. So tell us a little bit about all the things you've done with that.
Well, my dream when I was 12 was that I would someday go work with the Olympics, and um, I worked with Team USA through track and field. And so I traveled with them a little bit. And then I officiated the USA Junior Triathlon program, so the elite development program. So I traveled around the state working with that for a few years. So I've kind of been connected in the athlete world for a lot of years. Um, and when 2020 hit, leading up to that, I was looking at going to Tokyo. I wasn't on the docket yet, but I was looking at being a part of that and trying to become part of that team. And then we all know what happened with 2020.
Mhm.
But right before that, I had bought a farm. And so I kind of like my my time started getting split. Like, what do I want to do with my time? And that had been such a dream for so long to go work with the Olympics. And I finally realized that I didn't have any desire to do that anymore. And
Mhm.
my focus had changed. And I had to, I felt like my identity was around that because I had been talking about it and thinking about it and daydreaming about it and goal setting around it for so many years. And I finally realized that I could let it go and shift my attention. And when I did that, just all these other opportunities opened up. So I
That's
think I
awesome.
pigeonholed myself into that until I was able to let it go. And then once I let it go, I was like, wow, I've fulfilled so many things that I wanted to do. And maybe I'll go back to it someday. I don't know. Somebody I worked with um, a few years ago messaged me the other day and asked if I'd come down to Miami for a volleyball tournament in September. So I don't know. Maybe I'll dive back into that world yet. I haven't decided yet.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and being a former athlete yourself, I'm sure that you still continue to take good care of yourself and work out on a regular basis.
Yeah, it's not the same as it used to be. I've had some pretty major injuries that have sidelined me quite a bit. And I, the most recent one was a concussion, a really bad concussion 3 years ago. And a lot of depression came with that, a lot of memory loss, a lot of functional stuff that, I really, really struggled. And so I finally had to go, okay, what are my controllables? What things can I, you deal with a head injury like that and the depression that comes with it, and you go, okay, what are the things that I am most responsible for? It is quality sleep, nutrition, and gentle, kind exercise. And so, to this day, so I'm at 3 years now, just on the 16th was the third anniversary of my concussion. And that was my fifth concussion, by the way. And
Gosh.
that I decided that I was committing to working out with a trainer once a week. And that trainer had a lot of concussion experience. And so he and I actually traveled to England last year and did a cadaver dissection lab together. So his knowledge level and like what he's striving for and how he helps other people and the people that he's working with is kind of exceptional. And it was really exceptional. And so that was my focus, is sleep, nutrition, and at least once a week of a organized, very specific exercise. And then I own a farm. So I have 35 animals. So it's not like I'm sedentary. I am feeding throwing hay, and there's no rest. So I had to give myself permission that the work that I'm doing on the farm is a form of exercise, even if it's not an hour and a half in the gym doing cardio, lifting weights. I had to just shift my perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And because I gave myself that permission, I have been gently coming back into a very well, healthy mind, healthy body space.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, I can't even imagine 5 concussions. That is wow. And I know that it's changed a lot of your focus on brain health. And you said that like mushrooms and B12 are important to you. So, what
Mhm.
supplements have you been besides those, or tell us a little bit more about those
Yeah,
and
so
how they've
that's
helped you?
That's new. So we have a place in Des Moines called On with Life. It's up in Ankeny, and they are a concussion recovery specific place. They have a lot of inpatient care with patients that are in comas, and I mean, like their care is quite extensive. But they have an outpatient facility, and so I was there 3 days a week, and we were doing things. I can vaguely remember, there'd be dominoes on a board, and there would be a sheet of paper with, I had to match up 3 dots and 2 dots on a domino, and I had to look up and find that domino and match it down. And from the time I looked from the sheet up to find the domino, my brain had lost what I was supposed to be looking for, like just
Wow.
like that. And so, with having that level of my memory being in that state, and then how do I heal it? And what repercussions am I going to have? I have a grandmother with dementia. So what does that look like for my future of my brain? I mean, I've hit
Hmm.
it way too many times. And two of them, I busted up helmets. One was a cycling accident, one was a horse accident. Um, and so as I started kind of coming out of this depression state of how do I just function and still take care of my clients and still run my farm, because I'm doing it alone. I'm here by myself. And so I I was working with On with Life, and we were doing all of these things, and I just said my brain will be better in the future than it was before my concussion. Like that is my focus. Like that is where we are going. And so I found another doctor, Dr. Spooner, who is a concussion expert. He is former military. He has a ton of just concussion experience, and he's willing to think about things from a different perspective, um, and not just the Western medicine perspective, right? And so we've talked about ketamine, with guided ketamine with a physician, which I haven't done that yet. I don't know that I'm willing to go that far yet, but I'm contemplating it, right? So we have done alpha stim, which I don't know if you've heard of alpha stim. It is where they attach electrodes to your earlobes and send an alpha current through your brain. And so 45 minutes to an hour. So I was doing that once a week for a while, last year, quite significantly. And I'd have a session, I would get a massive headache for like 2 days later. And it was like, God, is this worth it? Can we do this? Like, are we making progress, or are we making things worse? And Spooner was like, what do you want to do? And I was like, I want to keep going. Like I think it's waking things up. I think that's why I'm getting a more severe headache. And so, I had dealt with migraines for the first 2 years up until September of this last year, constantly dizzy. Every time I would look to the right, I would list and start to fall over. And so in September, that all of a sudden just like started to vanish, but we had been doing weekly sessions. So the alpha stim combined with binaural beats. I don't know if you've done binaural beats. So
Mm-mm.
there's an app that I use called Brain Waves. And there's like 18 different categories, but it's alpha, beta, theta waves. And so you have to use earbuds because the sequences that are going in your left and right ear are different. So it sends a wave through your brain, right? And so I would combine alpha stim with binaural beats with classical music together. Like that was my trio.
Okay.
And that would, the whole purpose of it is to bring the brain out of a fight or flight state. If we can bring the brain out of fight or flight state, it can start to heal, it can rest. We can be into parasympathetic nervous system response rather than sympathetic, and we can begin to heal. So my whole focus is how do we continue that process of getting out of a sympathetic nervous system response, out of fight or flight, into rest, into digest. And I am a type A. I am on the go all the time. And so bringing me down
Mm-hmm.
so that I can be in a restful state is a really difficult thing for me to do. Like I have to be pretty intentional about it. And so literally like every week it's like, okay, focus. Okay, now I can focus. So we've been doing all of that. And then all of a sudden in September, my brain was just like, hey, I got this 3-week massive headache. Like I started thinking, do I have a brain tumor? Like I would wake up in the middle of the night and it was like splitting. And so there were times I'd get up, I'd take an Epsom salt bath. I would go outside and I'd walk around and just look at the stars, trying to figure out like, what do I do? And so that 3-week headache was like, it was horrible. And then as soon as that was over, I have had almost no headache since then. My brain is working on a significantly higher level. I'm remembering words, simple words, like I'd be in the middle of a sentence. And last fall, if we had been trying to have this conversation, I would have probably already stopped 100 times and gone, what was that word? Like that was where I was.
Yeah.
And so the alpha stem, the binaural beats, classical music, like I don't listen to anything that doesn't make my brain happy. And now what's happened more recently, I have a client who has also dealt with some concussions, and he was telling me about Four Sigmatic coffee that has lion's mane in it. He's like, Cindy, you have got to try this. So I picked up Four Sigmatic, I picked up vitamin B12, I started combining those in the morning, and game changer. I mean, like,
oh, wow.
Brain function going up to here. And in the last several weeks, I felt like I'm almost back to almost 10 years ago inside my brain. And so
that's wonderful.
Thing of, can we make our brain better than it was before? Yes, we can. 100%. I am on it. I'm on a mission. And I think a lot of other people, I think we get injuries and we have things that happen and we go, well, I'm just aging. I'm not going to be as good as I used to be. Well, why not? Why can't we find a better? I think we can find a better. So that's kind of where I am with the brain right now. So I actually just ordered a new supplement last night that has turkey something mushroom, reishi, and magnesium. So it's supposed to be a supplement that you drink before you go to bed. It's supposed to help
turkey tail.
Yes, that's it. Turkey tail. Thanks. And I literally just ordered it last night, and I actually saw my client this morning that told me about the Four Sigmatic coffee, and he was like, all right, Cindy, as soon as you try this new one, let me know. But I'm trying to figure out, how do we find a rhythm with natural products. I used to love enjoying wine and, gin and the occasional cocktail. Since September, I've had almost nothing from an alcohol perspective because I was finding that it was really causing delay in my brain healing. And now it is pretty much water.
Yeah.
And coffee, tea.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's been a really interesting journey. And every time I tell my clients, every time I get an injury, I've had a couple of surgeries, I've had lots of broken bones. Every time I get an injury, it is so that I can dive in, because that's what I do. I dive in and figure out how to fix it. And it's so that I can figure out how to fix it faster for my clients. I swear that's why I get injured.
No, I mean, you're laughing, and I know exactly what you're talking about, because I have shared this with multiple people before, that there are times where I take on my client's pain. It's like, why does my shoulder hurt? It didn't hurt, but it's because, Cindy's shoulder was hurting or whatever. And I'm like, this is so weird, but I understand exactly what you're saying.
It's so that we can figure it out for our clients and we can help them get better faster.
Oh my gosh. I love how proactive you are, because you're right. Like, a lot of people would have just accepted it and they would have been like, oh, I'm so unfortunate that this happened to me, and, woe is me. But I love that you have just decided, no, I'm not just going to heal. I'm going to be better.
I'm going to be better than I was before. Absolutely. Because look at the brain. It's so malleable. Like there's so much we don't even understand about the brain, even from a thought perspective, like the gray matter of the brain we can change it. Like our thought process can change it. So I was actually just talking to some people yesterday about goal setting and I am statements. I don't know if have you ever done I am
Uh-huh.
statements?
Yes.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So I haven't done it for a while and I was like, I think it's time to pull that back out again because I haven't done a revisit for that for a while and I think I'm ready. And but I love that, you know, you start your column, you pull the words over that you don't like, you find a really powerful, you know, word to replace it, and then you tear that old sheet off and you burn it, you light it on fire. And but you know, if we focus, whatever we focus on, we are creating a deeper groove in the dura mater of our brain. And so if we are spending all of this time in a negative thought process, and well, the woe is me, I'm getting older, I've had injuries, I'm not going to heal. Or do we say, you know what? Screw that, man.
Yeah.
Bring
Yeah.
it, like, bring it to me. I got this. So that's kind of and that's, you know, that is I firmly believe that we can change the gray matter of our brain and shift it to whatever we want, really. Where do we want to go? We have to be
Mhm.
intentional about it.
Oh my gosh, I love it. I now I'm like, okay, this is why Emily connected us. You're amazing and you're such an inspiration.
We're a little bit crazy, just a little.
Well, that's okay. There's got to be a balance in there.
Right, right.
Um, well, I know that you're so passionate about your farm and what you're doing now, so let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I had no intention of buying a farm. Many years ago, I had horses in Ohio and or worked with horses. I had a horse and I had a really bad hip injury that prevented me from riding for almost 15 years. And I thought I kind of like pushed that side of me away, even though that had been my just love and joy for as long as I can remember. And you know, either you're born with horses in you or you're not. And I was, you know, from the get-go, horses for me have just always been amazing. And I had boxed off that side of my heart saying, you know, that can't be because you can't ride, you can't be with them, it's too painful. And so I went to Vail and I got my hip fixed, and it actually, it does better now if I ride than if I don't ride. So, you know, again, changing like how we're going to do things.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I ended up, this horse came in from New York. I was leasing a horse about 30 minutes from here, and this horse came in from New York to be trained, and he wasn't doing well, and they were trying to figure out what the heck they were going to do with him. He was jumping through fences, getting himself tangled up. And after the person that was working with him was riding him one day, she's like, I don't know what to do with this horse. He's not afraid of anything. And I walked up and I looked at him. And when, by the way, when they brought him in for the first time, I thought, gosh, that's the ugliest horse I've ever seen. Who would want that horse? But it was, his eyes were dull. He was in a completely shut down state. His coat was dull. Like he had potential to be beautiful, but he was emotionally shut down. And I like challenges. So here we go. I went up and you said you have an acreage. So do you have horses as well?
We have 5 acres. No, we do not have horses. We have chickens and dogs and cats.
Okay. Well, anyway, so with, I don't know if you've been around them, but there's this thing with horses. But if you like take your hands and start at their ears and go down over their eyes and then down to their nostrils, oftentimes they will go and just drop their head, right? He didn't blink. He didn't breathe. He didn't move a muscle when I did that. And I was like, my brain went, I don't think he's not afraid of anything. I think he's so fearful that he's completely in freeze mode of sympathetic nervous system response. And so I called up the person who had purchased him in New York and I said, what's your plans with this horse? And she was like, I don't know. We might have to euthanize him. You know, he's having trouble. I don't know what's happening. I don't know what we need to do. And I was like, before you do that, would you let me play with him just for 60 days? I have some ideas. And my whole thought process was, can we reset his brain? Can we get him out of fight or flight? And so I started playing with this horse, and everyone was like, Cindy, you just need to buy Benny. And I was like, no, I'm not buying a horse. What am I going to do with a horse? I live in the city. I don't have time for this. And they were like, yeah, but you need Benny. And I'm like, no, I'm trying to help him get to his next phase. Well, that of course turned into, I bonded with him, and I bought him. And then I took him to different stables in the metro where I live. he didn't get along anywhere. He got in fights everywhere he went. He was in a fearful state all the time. And I was like, dude, do you need your own kingdom? So I bought Benny his kingdom. His Irish name is Ballycore. And so my farm is called Ballycore Farms. And I had no intention 6 or 7 years ago to buy a farm. I bought a farm. I now have 4 horses, and then an additional 2 that are owned by a border. I have 4 pet cows. I have 2 pet goats. I have a peacock and a peahen. I have 12 chickens, 5 cats, and a dog.
Oh my gosh.
That was 5 years ago. So Benny, he is from Ireland. He was a fox hunter. And I didn't know that fox hunting even existed in the Midwest. And so a few years ago, I started kind of getting introduced to this fox hunting club. And then last year, one of the guys that I had played polo with many years ago, he was like, Cindy, why don't you come join the club? And I was like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if I'm ready for that. And he was like, come on, just come join us. Come cap a couple times and see how it goes. And Benny was like, yes, this is what we're doing.
Oh,
So
that's great.
we started playing and really having fun. And he and I were bonding even more. And then the president of the club was like, hey, Cindy, I've seen these parties that you've been having at the farm. Would you like to do a fundraiser? And I was like, do you realize what you're asking me? Because I don't do anything half-assed. Like, it's all or nothing. I'm aware of this. So we are currently putting on a fundraiser in a week and a half. And I've been working on it since December. So it is a garden party. It is a Downton Abbey themed garden party with a marquee tent and string quartet and flowers everywhere. We have a silent auction, and we just tallied up the auction items a few days ago, and we're at $80,000 in donated items.
Wow.
We have a big game hunt in South Africa. We have a fly fishing trip in Alaska for a week. We have a penthouse condo in Keystone. We have opera tickets and dinner tickets and like all of these amazing donations that a lot of them have come from clients of mine. And they're just like, Cindy, you're doing this thing. Yeah, we're going to support it. We don't even know what fox hunting is. It's not our thing, but if you're doing it, we're going to support it. And I've been blown away by the generosity of people around me. So the garden party is on the 1st, and our goal is $40,000, and that 40,000, the club that I'm part of is a 501c3. And my desire for doing the fundraiser was that the money that gets raised supports the youth that are coming in, so that our next generations understand the purpose of fox hunting. And we're not killing anything. There's no killing fox or coyotes. It's working with landowners and land conservation and sustaining a sport that the foundation of it is respect for people, respect for animals, respect for land and landowners. And so it's been really fun. It's been a lot of work, but it's been really fun putting it together and seeing, my community be really supportive of me in the process. And I'm excited for, in a week and a half, I'm going to take a breath once it's all over.
Yeah. Yeah. You're going to need it. Yes. So for the people that are listening right now, I'm sure that there's a way for them just to donate, not even going to the function, because, this is an international podcast. I have no idea who's going to be listening. So if there's someone that's like, oh my gosh, yes, I believe strongly in that, how can they donate?
Yeah, so actually the auction is a silent auction and it's online.
Oh, okay.
It opens on May 25th, and the website is foxygardenparty.com.
Okay.
And that's a super fun name, right?
I like it. Yeah.
So foxygardenparty.com, and under the auction page, there is a link for 32 auctions, and that opens up the page. We even have one of my neighbors and friends, she has Highland ponies that were imported from England. So her stallion Archer, and he's part of the Queen of England's line of ponies.
Wow.
In fact, when he came in, she had a signed document from Queen Elizabeth, and it was so cool when her ponies arrived. So she has 3 that were imported from Ireland. She's just a mile up the road from me, but she donated 2 of her stallion breedings for Archer, and he's one of, I think, 16 in North America total. And so, or I'm not sure what the number is this year. That might have been a couple years ago. And so, if people are looking for a breeding to a stallion out of England, I mean, he's right here in Iowa, but he's collected for shipping frozen to anywhere. And so all of that information is on that auction page. We've got wine that's in. We have for bourbon drinkers, we got, and I didn't know what this was. I had to look it up. Pappy Van Winkle, which apparently
yes.
Pappy. Okay,
I do. Yes,
I didn't know what Pappy was, and so one of a client of mine from 20 years ago, I bumped into him at the gym, and I was working on my computer a couple months ago. He was like, Cindy, and he's lived in like 3 different states since the last time I saw him, and I was like, what are you doing back? And so he was like, what are you working on? I was like, oh, I'm working on this auction thing that I'm doing. He was like, well, do you need any auction items? And I was like, well, what do you got? And he was like, I've got a Pappy Van Winkle. And I was like,
wow.
I don't know what that is. So it's a 12-year, it's $1,100 bottle of bourbon.
Yeah.
And so he was like, I've got a collection. Why don't I just donate it? I'm happy to. So he brought me a bottle and left it at the gym. So I go up to the gym and I was like, hey, I'm at Lifetime. I go up to the gym and I go up to the desk and I was like, hey, there's a bottle of whiskey for me in the lost and found. And he was like, yeah, I wish there was for me too. And I was like, no, I'm serious. And he was like, what? And I was like, yeah, there's a bottle of whiskey under the counter. It should have my name on it. He was like, are you kidding me? I was like, nope, dead serious. He pulls it out. He was like, okay, here you go. Like,
that's a big deal. That should bring in a lot of money.
yeah, so we have that, and then we have another flight of 3 bottles from the same maker of Weller, Foolproof, and I can't remember what the other one is. And then we've got art. I don't know if you can see it behind me. That piece
I
right
can't.
there.
I was noticing that. Yeah.
Yeah. So the long one.
Okay.
With the animals. That is a local artist. That she and her husband are one of the top selling artists in the state of Iowa. And I met her in Trader Joe's. I was getting flowers for an event last year and she stopped me and she was like, what are you doing? And I was like, oh, I'm collecting flowers for an event. And she was like, I have never seen someone so happy surrounded by flowers. She was like, can I take your picture? And I was like, I mean, I guess, sure. So she and I became friends and I was telling her about this event and she was like, I'd love to donate a piece of art. So that thing right there is, I think it's $1,000 value. It's a limited edition.
Wow.
So we've gotten some really, really, really cool items. But listeners will have to go on the website and check it out. And if anyone's in the area or wants to come into the area, so we're connected with fox hunting groups in Kansas and Nebraska. And so like Leavenworth connects with our North Hills Hunt Club on a fairly regular basis. So like we've got hotel areas nearby that people, if they want to come up and come to the party, it's a creams and whites party. So, everyone's going to just be dressed up. And we have a Model T picking everyone up in our parking area and delivering them to the barn for a photo shoot. And
well, you were not kidding. You do go 100%.
This was my invitation. I don't know if you can see it, but I had it done in hand calligraphy. And then I
that's so cool.
Put a wax seal on it.
Oh my gosh. That's amazing. Very cool.
Oh, I just like to have fun. But yeah, so the event, my hopes are that we bring in the 40,000. So, the party to put it on is about 20 grand. So then our revenue, our net revenue, my goal was 40 grand on top of that. And that is to support the next generations. That is to, help with that development so that, because the club has to pay staff, they have to pay for, food for the hounds and the horses and the trailers and for staff, not for members. Members take care of their own stuff. But the club, the operating costs in order to keep all of that going and make sure that that is sustainable for the future, it takes a lot of money to do that.
Yeah.
So my hopes are that we've got quite a few young, like in the teens and early 20s, members of the club, which is, and they're just having so much fun and they're strong riders. And so my hopes are that this can help make sure that the sport that my horse brought me to,
Yeah.
really sustainability. And people can see that these traditions, I mean, it's the masters are in the crimson coats and everyone's decked out and dressed, and it's beautiful to see everyone galloping across the country. Like, it's really beautiful.
That
So
is so cool. Well,
yeah,
I'll make sure that this episode gets out then the day before your link opens for the silent auction so
that
people
would be
can, yeah, check that out. Yes, absolutely. And I'll put
awesome.
all your information in the show notes as well. So then if they had any questions, they could reach you.
Awesome. That's amazing.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. Yeah, this has been so fascinating and so interesting. I appreciate you sharing.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Yes, you take care.
Okay. Have a good evening.
Okay, that was so cool. And how incredible does her event sound on June 1st? If you're listening and you want to check out all the silent auction items, tomorrow, May 25th, you can go to foxygardenparty.com. I'll also share that in my Facebook group at Spandex and Wine, so you can check it there. But grab that bottle of Pappy Van Winkle. That would be so very cool. All right, here are a few takeaways. 1. Your dreams and goals change as life goes on. You might find yourself focused on a specific goal for it to suddenly change and become something that no longer holds your interest. Give yourself permission to let go and redirect your focus. 2. What are your controllables? What serves you best? Stay there and bless and release the rest. 3. Brain health is so very important. Whether you've had a brain injury or not, find ways to keep your mind sharp and healthy. We can make our brains healthier and even more functional. 4. Always be proactive with your health. 5. Animals are amazing communicators. It's learning the art of listening in a different way to connect with them and help them heal, learn, and grow. And finally, 6. Stay young and healthy by continually learning new things and finding new hobbies. Thanks again for listening. Be sure to check out all of the show notes for the details. Thank you for listening. If you're enjoying this podcast, be sure to follow Spandex and Wine so you don't miss an episode. To do this, just go to the podcast and click subscribe or follow wherever you are listening. Look for the plus sign or follow button. This is one of the best things that you can do for the podcast. If you'd also be willing to give a 5-star review, that would be amazing and much appreciated. Lastly, please share an episode with a friend or 5 to keep the love going, and join the Spandex and Wine community in our private Facebook group by searching Spandex and Wine. Feel free to reach out to me at any time by emailing info@spandexandwine.com or text me at 913-392-2877. I appreciate you. Thank you.